and welcome to Stretching the Word. I'm your host, Sister Valerie, and not today, devil, just not this year. Because we are creatures of habit, we may have been doing the same thing for years, but that does not necessarily mean that it's the correct way to do it. Yes, it may have gotten the job done, but we're never too old to learn a better way to anything, as we will find out in Acts, the 8th chapter. I'm going to read it briefly for you. Acts 8 and starting at verse 26 says, "Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, 'Rise and go toward the south to the road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is a desert place.' And he rose and he went." Notice, he rose and he went, but he was sent by the Spirit. "And there was an Ethiopian, a eunuch, a court official of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who was in charge of all her treasures. He had come to Jerusalem to worship, and was returning seated in his chariot, and he was reading the prophet Isaiah. And the Spirit of the Lord said to Philip, 'Go over and join his chariot.' So Philip ran to him and heard him reading Isaiah the prophet and asked, 'Do you understand what you're reading?' And he said, 'How can I, unless someone guides me?' And he invited Philip to come up and eat with him. Now the passage of the scripture that he was reading was thus: 'Like a sheep he was led to the slaughter, and like a lamb before its shear is silent, so he opens not his mouth. In his humiliation justice was denied him. Who can describe his generation? For his life is taken away from the earth.'" He was reading the scripture concerning Jesus and about his death and his resurrection. But he really didn't understand. There's a lot of parables in the Bible. And yes, we read, and some we've learned to quote. But do we really understand it? Like I said, we're creatures of habit. And yes, some of us have been going to church for years and years and years. Some of us was raised in the church. I know. I was one of those. Until one day, the Lord showed me a more excellent way. And then I was moved by the Spirit. Because yes, I had been reading. Yes, I had been hearing. But then it says, how can they hear without a preacher? And how can he preach except he be sent? So some of us, we're reading our Bibles. Some of us, we're going to church. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those things. But do we really understand that there is a more excellent way? His name is Jesus.